Imagine walking into any room and knowing exactly who's confident, who's pretending, and who's hiding the truth, all within seconds. Now imagine using that same understanding to master your own mind, eliminate excuses, and build unshakable discipline. Because the biggest advantage in life isn't strength or talent, it's understanding human behavior. Most people walk into a room believing that power belongs to the loudest voice, the most expensive clothes, or the person everyone seems to notice first. That assumption is exactly what keeps them invisible. The truth is that influence begins long before anyone speaks. It starts with observation. While everyone else is trying to be seen, the most effective person is quietly seeing everyone else. Every room tells a story. Every conversation is revealing information that people never intended to share. Confidence, insecurity, curiosity, fear, ambition, frustration. They all leak through tiny behaviors that most people ignore. Your advantage is not becoming someone else. Your advantage is learning to notice what everyone else overlooks. The average person enters a new environment asking one question: how do people see me? The exceptional person asks a completely different question: what is happening here that nobody else is paying attention to? That single shift changes everything. Human beings are remarkably predictable. We like to believe that we are mysterious, unique, and impossible to understand. Yet every day we reveal our priorities through our habits, our attention, our posture, our timing, and our reactions. Someone who interrupts constantly is often revealing more than impatience. Someone who avoids eye contact during one specific topic may be protecting something more valuable than information. Someone who speaks with absolute certainty about everything is frequently covering uncertainty that they cannot afford to expose. Your first mission is not to judge these signals. It is simply to notice them. Observation is a skill, and like every skill, it grows stronger through repetition. Spend less energy thinking about what you will say next, and more energy studying the patterns unfolding in front of you. Notice who naturally attracts attention without demanding it. Notice who changes their behavior depending on who enters the room. Notice who asks thoughtful questions instead of rushing to provide answers. Patterns matter because isolated moments can be misleading. One action means very little. Repeated actions reveal identity. The same principle applies to yourself. People often complain that they lack motivation, but motivation has never been the engine. It is only the spark. Sparks are exciting because they appear suddenly, but they disappear just as quickly. Discipline is different. Discipline does not ask how you feel today. It asks what kind of person you are becoming through today's actions. Imagine waking up every morning and negotiating with yourself about every decision. Should you exercise? Should you study? Should you work? Should you delay? Every negotiation drains energy before the day has even started. Eventually, exhaustion wins and comfort becomes the default. Discipline eliminates unnecessary negotiations. Instead of asking whether you feel like doing the work, create a system where the work begins automatically. Your brain loves efficiency. When behaviors become routine, they consume less mental energy. Suddenly, consistency feels easier, not because you became stronger overnight, but because you stopped forcing yourself to make the same decision over and over again. Most people are trying to defeat laziness. A smarter strategy is to design your environment so laziness has fewer opportunities. If your phone is within reach every time you sit down to work, your environment is stronger than your willpower. If distractions are constantly available, you are asking discipline to fight battles it never needed to fight. Rearranging your surroundings is often more powerful than trying to rearrange your emotions. Behavior follows friction. Increase the friction around bad habits. Reduce the friction around good habits. Make the productive choice easier than the distracting one. Small adjustments repeated daily become invisible forces shaping your future. The fascinating part is that this principle works everywhere. It shapes relationships, careers, leadership, and personal growth. The people who appear naturally disciplined are rarely relying on endless motivation. They have simply reduced the number of decisions that can pull them away from their priorities. Think about the moments when you lose control. They almost never begin with dramatic failures. They begin with tiny exceptions. I'll skip today. I'll start tomorrow. It won't matter this once. Those sentences sound harmless because each one feels temporary. Yet identity is built from repetition, not intention. Every repeated excuse quietly teaches your brain what standards are acceptable. The opposite is also true. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes evidence that you are reliable. Confidence is not created by positive thinking. It is created by accumulated proof. When you consistently follow through on small commitments, your mind begins expecting future success because it has witnessed your reliability. Self-belief becomes a consequence, not a prerequisite. This changes how you read other people as well. People rarely trust confidence that exists only in words. They trust consistency. They trust calmness under pressure. They trust behavior that remains stable when circumstances become difficult. That is why emotional control is one of the strongest signals of genuine strength. Anyone can remain composed when everything is going well. Pressure reveals what practice has built. When tension rises, watch who becomes reactive and who becomes curious. One person is controlled by circumstances. The other is gathering information. Information always creates better decisions than emotional impulse. Silence can become one of your greatest tools. Most conversations are competitions to speak. Very few people realize that silence encourages others to reveal more than they intended. People naturally seek to fill empty space. If you become comfortable with brief pauses, you will often learn far more than someone who rushes to respond. Listening is not passive. It is active intelligence. Every interaction provides data. Every reaction reveals priorities. Every repeated behavior exposes values. The more accurately you observe, the less frequently you will be surprised. The same awareness must eventually turn inward. Study yourself with the same honesty that you study others. What situations consistently weaken your discipline? Which excuses appear most often? What environments improve your focus? When does your energy naturally rise? When does it collapse? Treat yourself like a pattern waiting to be understood instead of a problem waiting to be fixed. Growth becomes faster when curiosity replaces self-criticism. The goal is not perfection. The goal is predictability. You want your best behaviors to become so familiar that they no longer depend on enthusiasm. You want your standards to remain steady regardless of mood, weather, praise, or criticism. Because the strongest person in any room is rarely the loudest, the most intimidating, or the most admired at first glance. It is often the individual who notices what others miss, controls what others cannot, and quietly builds habits that continue working long after excitement has disappeared, turning ordinary days into undeniable evidence of extraordinary character. Most people believe influence begins the moment they open their mouth. They think the fastest talker, the most confident speaker, or the person with the strongest opinions automatically becomes the center of attention. But if you slow down and pay close attention to the way people interact, you'll discover something completely different. The individuals who leave the strongest impression are often the ones who spend more time observing than performing. They aren't rushing to prove themselves because they understand that every room already contains valuable information. Their job isn't to dominate the conversation. Their job is to understand the environment before making their move. The moment you walk into a room, information begins flowing toward you. People are constantly communicating, even when they aren't speaking. Their posture, facial expressions, tone of voice, movement, timing, and reactions all create a silent language. Most people never notice it because they're too busy thinking about themselves. They're wondering whether they look confident enough, whether people like them, or what they should say next. That internal conversation blinds them to everything happening around them. While their attention is trapped inside their own head, they miss the countless clues being revealed in front of them. Imagine entering a meeting where everyone appears relaxed, yet one person keeps checking the door every few minutes. Another smiles during every conversation, but suddenly becomes unusually quiet when a specific topic is mentioned. A third person confidently shares opinions until someone with higher authority enters the room, and then their entire posture changes. None of these behaviors happen by accident. They are small signals pointing toward deeper emotions, priorities, and concerns. Someone who notices these patterns gains a level of understanding that others never achieve because they are collecting information instead of chasing attention. Observation isn't about making instant judgments. One behavior rarely tells the whole story. Anyone can have a bad day, become distracted, or react unexpectedly in a single moment. The real skill is identifying repeated patterns. When the same behaviors appear again and again across different situations, they begin revealing something meaningful about a person's habits, decision-making, and emotional tendencies. Patterns are far more reliable than isolated moments because consistency exposes what temporary emotions try to hide. This is why patience becomes such a powerful advantage. Most people are desperate to form opinions quickly. They label someone as confident, shy, intelligent, or unreliable after only a few minutes of interaction. But careful observers understand that first impressions are incomplete. Instead of rushing to conclusions, they gather more evidence. They compare actions with words. They notice whether promises become actions or remain empty statements. They watch how someone behaves when circumstances change, because pressure often reveals qualities that comfort keeps hidden. One of the greatest obstacles to observation is the need to be noticed. When your primary goal is impressing other people, your attention naturally shifts away from understanding them. Every conversation becomes a performance instead of an opportunity to learn. You begin focusing on saying the perfect thing rather than hearing what is actually being communicated. Ironically, this constant effort to appear impressive often makes people less effective because they overlook the information that could have helped them connect more naturally. Listening becomes completely different when your goal changes from responding to understanding. Most conversations aren't true exchanges of ideas. They're competitions where people patiently wait for their turn to speak. While someone else is talking, they're already preparing their next sentence. They hear words but miss meaning. Genuine observation requires resisting that impulse. Instead of mentally rehearsing your response, pay attention to how people tell their stories. Listen for changes in pace, moments of hesitation, repeated phrases, and emotional shifts. Often, what someone emphasizes repeatedly reveals far more than the actual content of their words. Silence also becomes one of the most valuable tools available to you. Many people become uncomfortable the moment a conversation pauses. They rush to fill every gap because silence feels awkward. But silence often encourages others to continue speaking. People naturally want to complete unfinished thoughts or explain themselves further when given space. A brief pause after someone finishes talking can reveal insights that would never appear if you immediately changed the subject or interrupted with your own opinion. Another powerful habit is observing relationships rather than individuals in isolation. Notice who naturally influences group decisions without demanding attention. Observe who others instinctively look toward before making important choices. Watch who creates calm during stressful situations and who spreads anxiety without realizing it. Influence isn't always connected to status or job titles. Sometimes the quietest person in the room shapes everyone's behavior simply because others trust their judgment. Understanding these invisible dynamics helps you navigate social situations with greater awareness. Your environment constantly provides clues beyond human behavior as well. Pay attention to energy levels within a room. Notice whether conversations feel open or guarded. Observe whether people interrupt one another or patiently listen. Every environment develops its own unwritten rules, and those rules shape how people behave. Someone who quickly recognizes those patterns adapts more effectively without pretending to be someone they're not. The same observational skills should eventually be directed inward. Becoming skilled at reading others while remaining blind to yourself creates an incomplete picture. Watch your own reactions with the same curiosity. Notice what situations make you defensive. Pay attention to the moments when your focus disappears or your emotions take control. Observe the excuses your mind repeats whenever you're avoiding discomfort. The more honestly you study your own patterns, the easier it becomes to understand why you make certain decisions. Self-awareness and awareness of others strengthen each other. As you become better at recognizing your own habits, you'll begin noticing similar patterns in those around you. Likewise, understanding human behavior in others often reveals blind spots within yourself. This continuous process of observation transforms everyday interactions into opportunities for learning. Every conversation becomes a source of insight. Every room becomes a classroom. Every encounter offers another chance to sharpen your awareness, recognize hidden patterns, understand unspoken emotions, and develop the quiet confidence that comes from seeing what most people overlook before they even realize they have revealed it. Motivation feels powerful because it creates an emotional surge. It convinces you that today is different, that this is the day everything changes. You wake up energized, make ambitious plans, write long lists of goals, and imagine a future version of yourself that never misses a workout, never procrastinates, and never loses focus. For a while, it feels real. But then life happens. You get tired, distracted, stressed, or overwhelmed. Suddenly, that emotional spark disappears, and with it, so does your desire to take action. This is where most people make a critical mistake. They assume that because motivation has faded, their goal is no longer possible. In reality, they were depending on something that was never designed to last. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. One depends on how you feel, while the other depends on what you have built. If your progress relies on feeling inspired every morning, then your success is at the mercy of your emotions. Emotions are constantly changing. They rise and fall based on sleep, stress, weather, conversations, and countless factors you cannot fully control. Building your future on something so unpredictable is like trying to construct a house on shifting sand. Discipline begins when you stop asking yourself whether you feel like doing the work. Instead, you decide that certain actions are simply part of who you are. You don't negotiate with yourself every morning. You don't hold daily debates about whether you should move closer to your goals. The decision has already been made, leaving only one responsibility: follow the plan. Think about how much mental energy is wasted on repeated decisions. Every day you ask yourself the same questions. Should I exercise today? Should I study now or later? Should I finish this task or scroll through my phone for a few more minutes? Each decision drains your focus. The longer the debate continues, the more likely comfort wins. Your brain naturally seeks the easiest available option because conserving energy has always been part of human survival. If the easier choice is always within reach, your mind will often choose it without much resistance. This is why systems matter more than willpower. A well-designed system removes unnecessary choices. Instead of relying on self-control every single day, you create routines that make productive behavior automatic. When an action becomes part of your daily rhythm, it requires far less effort than starting from scratch each time. Eventually, you stop thinking about whether you're going to do it. You simply begin. Your environment plays a much bigger role than most people realize. Many believe discipline is purely about inner strength, but your surroundings constantly influence your decisions. If distractions are always within reach, you're asking yourself to fight battles that don't need to exist. Imagine trying to concentrate while your phone lights up every few minutes with notifications. Every vibration becomes an invitation to abandon your focus. Instead of blaming yourself for lacking discipline, change the environment that encourages distraction. Reduce the number of obstacles between yourself and good habits. If you want to read more, keep a book where you usually relax. If you want to exercise consistently, prepare your workout clothes the night before. If you want to write every morning, have your workspace ready before you wake up. These small adjustments may seem insignificant, but they eliminate excuses before they have a chance to appear. The opposite principle applies to bad habits. Increase the effort required to engage in them. Move distractions farther away. Remove unnecessary temptations. Make poor decisions slightly more inconvenient. Human behavior often follows the path of least resistance. When healthy actions become easier than unhealthy ones, consistency becomes much more achievable. Another misunderstanding about discipline is the belief that it requires perfection. People think one missed day means failure. They assume that breaking a streak destroys all progress. This mindset is dangerous because it turns small mistakes into complete setbacks. Missing one workout doesn't ruin your fitness. Skipping one study session doesn't destroy your education. The real danger comes from allowing one mistake to become a new pattern. Successful people recover quickly. They don't waste time drowning in guilt or creating dramatic stories about failure. They recognize the mistake, adjust, and return to the system. They understand that consistency is measured over months and years, not by a single difficult day. Discipline also grows stronger through identity. Instead of focusing only on outcomes, begin asking what kind of person consistently achieves those outcomes. Someone who reads every day doesn't constantly think about finishing books. They see themselves as a reader. Someone who trains regularly doesn't wake up wondering whether they should exercise. They identify as someone who values physical health. Identity transforms actions from temporary efforts into natural expressions of who you believe you are. Every small promise you keep strengthens that identity. Every completed task becomes evidence that you are reliable. Your brain begins collecting proof about your character. Over time, confidence stops depending on motivational speeches or external encouragement. It becomes rooted in your own history of following through. Progress is rarely dramatic. Most meaningful improvements are almost invisible while they're happening. Reading 10 pages today won't feel life-changing. Saving a small amount of money this week won't seem extraordinary. Practicing one skill for 30 minutes may not produce noticeable results. Yet these tiny actions accumulate quietly. Weeks become months. Months become years. Suddenly, the gap between someone who acted consistently and someone who waited for motivation becomes enormous. This is why patience is an essential part of discipline. Modern life encourages immediate results. People expect quick transformations, rapid success, and instant recognition. When those expectations aren't met, they become discouraged. But real growth operates differently. It rewards persistence more than intensity. A person who works steadily for years often surpasses someone who works passionately for only a few weeks. There will always be days when enthusiasm disappears. There will be mornings when everything feels difficult and every excuse sounds reasonable. Those moments are not signs that something is wrong. They are opportunities to prove that your system is stronger than your emotions. Anyone can work when they feel inspired. The true test comes when inspiration is absent and action still continues. The goal is not to eliminate emotion, but to prevent emotion from controlling your direction. Feelings will change, circumstances will shift, and challenges will appear without warning. A reliable system keeps you moving through all of them because it doesn't rely on temporary excitement. It relies on repeated action, carefully designed habits, supportive environments, deliberate routines, and the quiet decision to continue taking the next step, regardless of how exciting or ordinary that step may feel on any given day.